Can you hear me? Oh, yes, you can hear me. First, I just want to thank you all for making us so welcome since we've been coming along here. And you've just been so hospitable. So thank you for that. I just want to give all glory to the Lord as I share my testimony today. I was born in Ireland, and I was the 11th child, the youngest. My mum lost 2, so there would have been 13 of us. So mum had a poisoned kidney, and I'm watching my watch so I don't go over time. And so I was brought on early. So I was somewhere between 2.5 pound and 3 pound born. I developed pneumonia, and I was in an oxygen tent. My face had already gone blue, and the family, except the second eldest brother, who was already in New Zealand, my dad got them all down on their knees. He was a backslider, and he prayed for a miracle. And I wouldn't be here to tell the story if the Lord hadn't have answered prayer. He gave his life to the Lord, and I was only 5.5 when he died, and 21 when my mum died. But they were wonderful parents. I don't have many memories of my dad, but I had a wonderful mother. I accepted the Lord into my life on the 12th of October, 1969, and I was baptised on, I think it was 13th of November, 1969. And although I was brought up in a Presbyterian church, my dad decided, with all those kids having to scramble into the car, that it was quicker to go to the Brethren church that we were right next door to. That's not the funny Brethren, it's the other one. And so they baptized me, and even though the doctors had called for me to be baptized before I died, because that's an Irish thing, they don't like baby souls not being prayed for, but I was totally immersed in my baptism and went into fellowship on the following week. So it's been an interesting journey. At the age of 9, Mum and I came to New Zealand. My brother was in Whanganui. I had never met him before. And actually, when I met him, I didn't like him because he was grumpy. But he ended up being my favourite brother. He had a dog called Goldie. And he said, "Don't you go near that dog because she's not used to children and she'll bite you." Well, I took that dog to bed with me, put a pair of my pajamas on it, and she slept with me. So she sort of became my dog after that. She knew my mum was deaf, and she knew neither of us had sense of direction, so she took us to school every day and brought me home safely. However, we were only 2 months in the country, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, our house, my brother's and sister-in-law's house, burnt to the ground. My brother woke me up, and I was still asleep. God is so good, because I would have panicked. And God kept me asleep all through the fire. And Mum grabbed me in all our clothes and her pension, which she'd just picked up, and the takings from the fish and chip shop was all lost in the fire too. But I was walking into the flames, and my brother grabbed hold of me. Mum made her way out into the veranda, and my brother threw me out the window. So if you think I'm a bit funny in the head, maybe that's why I landed on my head. They had a 6-week-old baby, and but I'll just go back to my mum. She got lost, and she managed to make her way to the veranda. And she prayed, "Lord, keep us all alive, protect us." And she, the little Yale handles, gold Yale round things. She couldn't get it open. So she prayed, Lord, open the door. And the door opened. She had thrombosis in her leg and suffered from angina. And the Lord just opened the door and she just jumped down the 3 steps. The papers had it that I was first out, but my mum was first out because I woke up when my head hit the ground. And as I went rolling down the hill, it was Mum that caught me. My sister-in-law dived out through the window head first. The fire was in the bedroom by the stage, and my brother couldn't get the baby out of the bassinet. So he just grabbed mattress and all, held it close to his chest, and he dived head first out the window. And the baby was just 6 weeks old, and he landed on top of her. But that mattress, God knew that mattress was needed because that mattress protected that little baby, and she's alive today. My brother and sister-in-law have passed on. I know my brother's gone to be with the Lord, and I know my mum and dad have gone to be the Lord, and some of the others who I led to the Lord. People were wonderful. They got out of their bed and they give us their beds. But what an experience. We've only been in the country for 2 months. I went to school and I loved the school, and I became the champion of knucklebones because I'm kind of right-handed and left-handed. So I became the school champion. However, we returned at the age of 11 back to Ireland because Mum had left the twins with the older kids. And I did not like Ireland one little bit. But I persevered, and at the age of 17, not quite 17, I had my 17th birthday in New Zealand, my brother asked me if I would like to come out and help him, which I did. I flew all by myself, and we got to New York, and there was an air crash, a plane that had 2 planes had crashed into each other. So the sky was red. As we looked out the window, all we could see was red. And then they announced that because there were so many planes all circling around, that we were being sent to different destinations. I got sent to Philadelphia, and they emptied everything out of my trunk and everything out of my cases, which I didn't pack because Mum had bought me a complete wardrobe of clothes to come away in. And they just threw it all in the ground. Of course, I found out after, being a young girl traveling alone, they thought I was a drug mule. But the passengers helped me, and then the plane was late. I was stranded in Fiji for several days. So by the time I finally got to Whanganui, there was no one there to meet me. And I didn't have his address. I didn't have a clue where he lived. All I knew was he owned Castle Cliff Fish Supply. And this man who had recognized me on the journey came up and said, can I help you? And I said, well, my brother's not here to meet me. And so he ended up taking me home. And I suddenly thought, I don't know this man. He could kidnap me. He could do anything to me. So I shuffled over to the passenger seat and I held my hand on the handle because I thought, you come anywhere near me, I'm jumping out that door. But he was a real gentleman and took me right to my brother. But however, my brother and I didn't get on. And 4 months, I persevered for 4 months. I rang my brother up in Perth and he flew me over to Perth. And I lived there for 8 months. And then I got a call from my family. Please come home. Mum is calling for you in her sleep. And my brothers and sisters all sent letters. Please come home. So I worked 3 jobs. I worked in the office During the day, I worked in a deli for a couple of nights a week, and I worked in a rest home for a couple of nights a week as well. And one of the jobs that they gave me was to take false teeth out of people's mouths and clean them. Well, I don't like touching false teeth. And I said to the Lord, please take me to glory with my own teeth. And so when Mike got his teeth out, I said to him, you're not getting into bed beside me, and else you get your teeth put straight in. But anyway, going back to Ireland, I returned because Mum had been calling for me. She met me in the Leamington Spa in the Midlands, and I listened to the news, and everything was quiet in Ireland. So I thought, right, we're safe to go. We arrived in Belfast, and all you could hear was boom, 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 boom. And I said to Mum, we need to turn back. And she says, you can't just get on the plane and go back. And besides, you need to catch up with your brothers and sisters. I got a job in Belfast, where all the fighting was, in an office upstairs. And I froze. And the boss used to let me heat my hands against the oil things that heated the offices. But this day, as I went to work, the Lord said to me, you're getting blown up today, so be prepared. I can remember hugging my mum because I thought I'd never see her again. And we just hugged and hugged. And she said, I'm praying for you. So she got the same feeling. So I went into work, and the boss said, don't you think you've warmed your hands up enough? I said, I'm not doing any work today. And he said, why not? And I said, because we're getting blown up today. So they all thought I was a wee bit loopy. A new girl started, and I said, don't do any work. Sit beside me, and when the alarm goes off, run. The alarm did go off. The Lord had told me. I don't really remember flying down the steel stairs. It was a steel yard, and there were men underneath. And as I sort of flew down, I still believe an angel carried me. I got down so fast. The men just all froze, and they were just gone. And I remember turning back and saying, aren't you coming? They sensed something. And I'm sure it was an angel carrying me to safety. I did a wrong thing. Excitement got into me then, and I thought, I've never seen a building blow up so close. So I hid round the corner, and when that explosion went off, the noise, and I jumped and landed in the tea lady's arms. It was terrible, and it just absolutely filled me with absolute fear. It was 4 men. One was the driver. One went in and had a gun, and the guy's head, he pushed him to the ground with the rifle at the back of his neck. He says, you move and I'll blow your head off. The other one spread the petrol, and the other one that spread the petrol lit the bomb. We weren't given any time. So we didn't know when that bomb was going to go off. So what an experience. The boss rang my home, and my brother came and picked me up. Well, the fighting was terrible then. Every day you'd go into work, and the bombs would just go. There'd be 20, 30 or more a day. And where I lived in a seaside place called Carrickfergus, they only got a few bombs, but it did get to go there. And I'd go into shops, and I'd only be out of them, and I'd get thrown because the bombs going off. People's screaming, the army, the fire brigade, police, and the screams of people with hands blown off, legs, feet. It was just horrific and very, very terrifying. But the Lord was good to me. He protected me all through that. We moved to another building and we had a peephole thing, so if anybody came with bombs and what have you, we could tell. But every time a bomb went off, my nerves were shattered, and I'd jump and grab hold of somebody. I even jumped one day and landed in the managing director's son's arms, and he never smiled, but he did that day. And they all looked after me. And I can remember having to go up all these flights of stairs, and nobody would come up with me that day, and I was busting to go to the toilet, so I went up by myself, and then a mighty bomb went off. I'm running down the stairs, getting myself decent as I come flying through, and they just looked after me. I couldn't stand living in Ireland much longer. You'd be going to work, the army would search us, and it would take you a couple of hours to travel 10 miles because of the search. That just saved up my money, and I said, I'm sorry, Mum, but I can't stay here. I'm not staying here. I was standing by a window one day, and they had dummy bullets, is that right? Dum-dums. And there were two men. I was standing looking out the window, and two men were just standing, shooting each other. And the boss grabbed the hold of me, threw me to the ground, and he protected me while I was on the ground. And he said, you silly little so-and-so. He says, you never stand and look at gunmen shooting each other. But it got so bad, they were all over the place. Women were involved. They would put a doll in a pram, making out it was a baby, and it would have a bomb in it. And there was never notices given. I can still hear the sirens. But praise God, none of my family got killed. I had a brother involved in the fighting who eventually came to New Zealand, and he couldn't live with himself, so he became an alcoholic. So that brother died for 10 minutes, and I rang the ambulance, and they said, you need to get him on his side, and I was waiting on having my neck operated on. So I used my feet, and I got him on his side, and then they said, you've got to take the false teeth out. And I said, I do not touch people's false teeth. And he said, you must get it out. They don't do that today. I had no way of doing it, so I got my foot and I put it in the back of his head and I kicked his head, and the teeth come flying out. So then I come back to New Zealand, and I wanted to see every part of New Zealand before I left. I wanted to go to Canada to go to a Bible school there, and I met my wonderful husband. And it was love at first sight. I never believed it love in first sight, but it was for us. And as we've heard before, we've had 48 wonderful years. But we couldn't have children because it turned out that I had they diagnosed it as a tumor. I believe it was a cyst because it's still there, and I'm still walking right there in the pituitary gland. So that prevented me from having children. So the Lord was good. I asked for a son, and 9 months till the day we got him, I started buying a pram, a cot, a bassinet, and people were thinking, she's going to lose it if this doesn't happen. But 9 months till the day I was told by the Lord that he would give me a son and that I was to call him Timothy, the social welfare rang up, and we got a beautiful 5'10" baby. He was only 3 days when we got him because the biological was only 14 when she conceived, 15 when she gave birth, and she was taken away. She never touched him. We got our second boy 23 months later, Daniel, and he had a mother the same age, no relation, but his mother conceived she was 15 when he was born too. So the Lord really blessed us, and I'm going to move on there. I always wanted a daughter, never got a daughter. How much time have I got? 5 minutes. We never got a daughter until Mel came into my life. She was the bird lady, I call her, and she's now my daughter. And you know the fun part about it, and the most exciting bit about it, we didn't have to bring her up. So we ended up with a daughter who's absolutely gorgeous and a beautiful little grandson. But he didn't want to call us Nana and Granddad because Nana and Granddad die, and I don't want you two to die. So it's a bit confusing because he calls me Mum and Mama to his mum. Sometimes he gets mixed up, and so when he says Mum, Mum, I'm standing, is that me? And then we've been further blessed by Sol. And I met her as I was getting hearing aids, and she's living with us. And her children hopefully will arrive at Easter, and they're going to be coming here to go to Sunday school. So there's another daughter, and again, I didn't have to, I'm a New Zealand mum and dad. She calls us mum and dad, and I didn't have to bring them up either. So that was such a blessing. So moving on, because I don't know where I'm up to. I was in fellowship in a Presbyterian church, one of the leaders of the church, an elder. Got landed with lots of jobs, didn't I, Neil? I ended up doing most things at the church: treasurer, preaching, intercessory prayers, doing the communion, and fronting, doing the whole thing by myself and in the worship group. So then I finally moved off, and Neil and Alistair often said to us, we got here a wonderful church. Why don't you come and join us? So we did. And it was the best decision that we have ever made. You have made us feel so welcome. And I get so excited at coming here. One Sunday I went home. We naturally went home, and was it Saturday or Monday morning? I got up, had a shower, got dressed, and Mike was in his jeans. And I said, "Are you going to church dressed like that?" He says, "Church?" He says, "You've got to wait till Sunday." I was so excited with coming here. I count the days till I can get here. You're so blessed with the wonderful teaching and a wonderful minister and Erna. Just so blessed. And I want to be part of that blessing. But before I'll just quickly share. I was born, as I said, dying, so I have had lots of health issues. I've had 34 operations, and some of them quite major. Twice, once, they gave me an overdose of anesthetic, so the Lord brought me through that. And the second time, which is not this operation that I had just recently, but the one before, I went home, the blood pressure dropped and the oxygen dropped, which is what happens to me. And I said to Mike, "I'm very tired," and I'm never tired in the afternoon, and I went to bed. I woke up, I didn't know who I was, I didn't know where I was, but I did know I had dogs, but I didn't know their names. I went out and I said to Mike, "What do we feed the dogs?" And he said, "Pardon," because I was the one that fed them. And he said, "What's my name?" I said, "I don't know." "What's your name?" "I don't know." I lost everything in the brain, just gone. But I wasn't frightened, I was happy. And I can remember sitting in the hospital, and I don't know where I thought I was, but I said to Mike, let's escape from here. So anyway, they said that I could have another one, and praise God, I haven't. The doctors came in and he said, what's 7 away from 100? Now I can take 7 away from the 100 and count all the way back, 7 added on. And I just stared at him because I didn't know what 100 was. So how could I take anything away from it? So he came round the next day, and the nurses had to write every detail back, and it looked like I wasn't going to come out of it. But Mike and my dear friend Lindley down there, and Neil, and everybody was praying for me and Alistair. And then finally, she said, who's the Prime Minister? I said, I don't know. No matter what they asked, I don't know. And then finally, I recognised Mike. I didn't know my own name. I didn't know I had sons. I didn't know I didn't come from this country. But the Lord delivered me through that too. So our God is awesome. He never leaves us or forsakes us. And I just quickly want to read what got me through, and I'll finish then because I don't want to hold you up. It's in Psalm 91. When we travelled, when SARS, we did a world trip where SARS was, and we'd already booked and paid for our ticket. And I said to Mike, we're going. And it was just after Mike had had a triple bypass. And I didn't know whether he was going to live or not. And he'd never been out of New Zealand, and I wanted him to travel. SARS was pretty bad. And this is the scripture. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague, SARS, that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will observe only with your eyes. And then down to verse 9, you make the Most High your dwelling, even the Lord who is your refuge, and he's been my refuge. He's been my helper. He's my redeemer. And I just love him just so much because I know how many times he's performed miracles. I've had 2 miracles. My right hand was shorter than the other, and nobody touched me. And the minister from St. David's at that stage just came and prayed, because I said to him, I don't know about this healing. You know, I don't belong to one of those funny churches. I'm Presbyterian. And he said, well, that's good, because I'm Presbyterian too. I didn't realize he was the minister. So he prayed, and my arm lengthened right in front of me. Neil's late wife, Nadi, was a good friend of mine, and she was my support person, and my friend Carol, who has left Invercargill. And they were jumping up and down with joy. Do you know, because I didn't believe, I couldn't speak for a little while. And I knew God healed. So Mike's just telling me my time's up. And so the second time was coming through a major operation. I lost all the oxygen and blood pressure. And I came to, and they were wrapping me a big blanket that was like tinfoil, and it was an electric blanket, and they plugged me in, and they're saying, you're all right, sweetheart, we'll get you through this. And once again, the Lord brought me through. And I'm finishing. I served in schools teaching the children. Kay's 3 daughters I taught, and I've got beautiful children, Jared and Kay. They're absolutely honeys. I loved teaching the children. 34 years I spent ministering there. And I'm going to finish now giving all the honour and all the glory to the God that I serve. He's the lover of my soul, and he's coming back. And if you haven't accepted him as your own and personal savior, do so before it's too late. Because it's going to happen just like that. Quicker than you can blink your eyes, it's going to happen. I know where I'm going. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. We thank the Lord, and thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it. So we are going to listen to one more. Russell Buckley, he will